Hi there. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all and thank you for taking some time out of your day to attend our 30-minute webinar on Is Your CFO's Head in the Cloud? This is one of a series of webinars we've been holding this year, and a list of the topics we will be presenting and we have presented can be found on our website at myogen.com. So as I mentioned, the subject for today is your CFO's Head in the Cloud, and I will present it to you by one of Myogen's consulting team, Patrick Boisse. So over to you, Patrick.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Peter, and welcome everyone. Just to give you an idea of what I'll be covering, I know a lot of you have come to our webinars before, but for those of you who haven't, I'll start off by telling you a little bit about Myogen. Then I'll bring you up to speed as to where finance sees themselves, a quick intro into what cloud currently offers, how cloud elevates FP&A, how you can benefit from cloud tech, and lastly, how the role of the CFO is changing. Okay, so here's a little bit about us before we head into the webinar. We at Myogen are an FP&A consultancy based in Dublin, with regional offices in London and Doha, and soon we'll be opening a new branch in Dubai. Our mission is to enable better decision making. And so, as you're well aware, the name of the webinar is Your CFO's Head in the Cloud? Right, so I came across a recent study that Oracle did in March about finance people and their thoughts, which I found really interesting, so I pulled up some of the figures. In a time where we're constantly hearing about new companies and new innovation, I was stunned to see that 30% of finance and line of business executives agree processes are still paper-based. I would have guessed that it was a lot less than that, but how do you think that slows the process down compared to paperless office or paperless processes? 20% believe that their finance organizations have adopted leading-edge technologies. This is great for the 20%, but what about the other 80% that are currently lagging behind? How efficient are they compared to others? Would be the question in my mind. 28% are already using the cloud to support budgeting, planning, and forecasting. So 72% haven't moved yet, but 34% plan to move into the cloud within the next year. In fact, 67% of executives have either already adopted a cloud-based system in some part of the organization for core financials or are planning a roadmap for doing so. So this paints a clear picture for me. We have a relatively low percentage of companies using cloud technology, but soon it'll be the majority that are using cloud. So based on this information, one can firstly say that it's a topic on many companies' agendas. And secondly, if a company waits just even 2 years, it'll have been left behind, which is a relatively short space of time. Right, so most of us know what cloud computing is, but I suppose for those of you who don't, a quick run through. One could define it as accessing your system through the internet. Instead of a cable running from your computer to the server in the back room, the server is in a secure data center and your cable is connected to the internet. So the usual things cloud computing offers are security. Your equipment and data is much safer in a data center where they have a high level of security. So realistically, your equipment isn't going to be stolen. They have fire and flood protection, and so it's a lot safer. Cost. You get the economies of scale and lower total cost of ownership. So you typically only pay for what you use, as opposed to having to pay for extra hardware to make sure that you have sufficient capacity. Accessibility. Everywhere you can get an internet connection, you can access your systems. Scalability. Turn on more licenses as you grow. Turn off if someone leaves or reduces numbers. Your fixed costs are transferred into variable costs that are linked to users, and as we all know, variable costs are preferred by most. And last but not least, all system software is kept up to date. So no need to upgrade or get back to the office to upgrade, no longer having to give the machine to IT. Okay, so for those of you that aren't aware, there's a couple of names for cloud computing software, such as software as a service, also known as SaaS, or cloud applications, or simply just cloud apps. So now that we've covered that, that's all great for companies as a whole, but let's take a look at how cloud can help us in finance. Top innovative CFOs see themselves these days as people that can make a bigger difference to companies. They're now looking to self-service analysis and predictive what-if planning capability to anticipate future challenges to success. Spreadsheets are now seen as an inherent risk and have too many limitations that have been taken for granted. Sure, if you do a search on Google for spreadsheet errors, you'll see many catastrophic outcomes that companies have experienced due to their reliance on spreadsheets. In fact, I remember seeing a statistic on the internet recently that really jumped out at me. It said that 80% of spreadsheets contain significant errors. That means that 4 out of 5 spreadsheets are wrong in some way, which is kind of a crazy figure if you think about it. I don't want to go into too much detail here, but there's a group called the European Spreadsheet Risk Interest Group, which again I found on the internet, and I was really surprised about it. They examine spreadsheet risks and develop methods for prevention. They even hold a conference every year. Check them out on the internet if you're interested. They're called EU SPRIG or EU SPRIG. Very interesting website actually. Anyway, moving on, we've all heard of the Fannie Mae honest mistake where they discovered a $1.1 billion error. And I believe the Vice President for Investor Relations explained it as an honest mistake made in spreadsheets. So with spreadsheets having been identified as a significant risk factor in effective financial planning and analysis, maybe it's time that organizations review their reliance on them. I know that I've been used to using spreadsheets for a long time, and finance and other departments have been using spreadsheets for years, but times are moving on and maybe we shouldn't put up with existing issues like this. Anyway, new cloud FP&A systems are about a lot more than avoiding spreadsheet error, as we'll see in the next couple of slides. But while the finance office has been a bit slow to embrace the cloud and the capabilities and benefits of tools have finally tipped the scale in their favor, more and more companies are making the transition to cloud platforms that allow them to deliver on the promise of FP&A excellence. Now, configurable and flexible FP&A cloud systems are available to bring finance departments up to speed compared with the other functions of enterprise. So, collaboration. Many of us already know what it's like when we have to wait until someone updates a spreadsheet before we can work on it ourselves. Or being in a position where others create multiple versions and then we end up with too many versions of the same spreadsheet, not knowing which one to use or trying to bring all the changes in the multiple sheets into one updated model. Many of you know the nightmare, I suppose, that this creates. But with cloud computing or software as a service, many people can work on the same sheets without creating multiple versions or forgetting to save, which makes it so much easier. You don't have to worry about who's working on what. And on top of that, most financial cloud software have an inbuilt audit trail, so you can see who makes changes and where. So if you have any queries about the changes, you know who to speak to about it. As well as that, you as the administrator can usually set privileges to different departments and users. So you can grant some people access to certain parts and others you may only grant read-only access, which means that they can take advantage of being able to run much needed reports and view information related to them, but don't have the power to change things. So again, all of you are aware of spending time and effort working on spreadsheets and someone comes along and changes things. If you're giving a lot of people access to these systems, now you know you can put something in place to make sure that they can get the information without affecting it anyway. Okay, so soon the days of having to wait for information will be gone, since cloud computing, with cloud computing, all your information that is updated anywhere will immediately be updated everywhere, which in turn means that we are not only looking at real-time information, but we can change and view in real time. An example of this is what-if scenarios, where we can work with models and input data to see the consequences, or link to other areas and see the knock-on effect. An example of this would be, say, an airline that want to see how fluctuation in the cost of fuel affects their profitability, not only on the whole organization, but maybe on specific routes. So they can increase the cost by a small percentage and see the knock-on effect in their other spreadsheets and models. And this really is a powerful tool. I suppose another drastic but possible example could be, say, an oil company in the Middle East who want to see the effect of not being able to use certain routes due to security issues, and how this could affect not only the logistical delivery of the product, but how this increases costs, and having to change routes could affect margins and profits. So now you can see how being able to see this in real time is such a great advantage, essentially being able to run risk analysis. Okay, well, with regards to cloud backup, there is no need for backup anymore, no more expensive accidents. Cloud is constantly being backed up and sometimes even saved as you work. What this means to you is that you don't have to worry about losing any data. I'm sure you've all been in a situation where you have autosave set up on Excel to save every couple of minutes, but it's still a real pain when it crashes. You have to retrace your steps for those couple of minutes and work back from where you left off. Again, a small thing, but a big advantage. So new finance cloud apps are designed these days by finance teams because the new wave of IT cloud companies realize that to increase adoption of IT systems, they have to be built with the end user in mind. Not like legacy on-premise large enterprise systems that were designed by IT and take a very long time to learn. So an example would be an FP&A system that incorporates spreadsheets and formula in order to simulate Excel. So you have the look and feel of a spreadsheet that you are used to, but you also have all the other benefits that go with cloud. So it doesn't take you a long time to learn the new system. What this means for us is that you don't have to worry about getting a new complicated system and having to learn how to use it, along with all your current workload. We all know what a headache a long learning curve can be. Essentially, you can hit the ground running. Another thing to point out here is the installation or integration time of cloud systems. With on-premise, you can expect anywhere from 6 to 12 months for integration, maybe even longer, while cloud takes a fraction of this time, maybe about 2 to 3 months. Again, what this means for us is that when we decide to take on new tools or a new system, we don't have to wait a year before we can use it and see the benefits. With large on-premise systems, changing and configuring can be quite time-consuming. First, we have to raise an IT ticket, then we wait a week or more sometimes for IT to check and change, and then if it doesn't work quite like the way we want it to, we have to log another ticket, and then we have to go all the way back and start all over again. So now with cloud systems, finance take ownership. We configure and change them ourselves. No longer do we need or want to ask IT to get involved. If we see a way of doing things better, we just change things ourselves. If that change works, great. If not, we can make slight changes to configure to the way we want it, or change back again. Not a big deal. So with a cloud system, it's much faster, much easier, not that much hassle. Also, IT are happier because they don't have the extra burden of finance constantly asking for changes. But as time goes on, this ability to change and configure our systems to suit the business as it changes and as our needs change will be a real asset to us. And also, whatever is an asset to us and speeds up our processes, in turn helps our organization. Okay, so we have all experienced downtime, some more than others. It usually happens at crucial times when we have deadlines that can't be moved, like end of year or month end. What can we do about it? Not much. I suppose we're told to hang tight and wait. It kind of kills us when this happens, but sure, it's just a fact of life, isn't it? Well, now it's not. Most cloud companies only have downtime once or twice a year for routine maintenance, and they advise us well in advance of this routine maintenance and when it's planned. And it's usually planned for when people don't usually work, so most aren't affected and can avoid it having a negative impact. So downtime shouldn't really be an issue anymore, and I suppose we can all imagine the benefits of that. So where do we see the role of finance today? As finance tools evolve, so too does the role of finance professionals. As you can see from this illustration, the future of finance or CFOs is going to evolve into more of a consultant decision maker. Rather than just providing numbers, we will be instrumental in the decision-making process. An example of this would be the time spent building reports, maybe moving from there to spending time analyzing them instead. This is where we can really make a difference. If as finance professionals we don't keep up with the newest and best tools, innovation and technology, we will fall behind not just in our own job but in the marketplace too. So it's in our own personal interest to keep up with new technology, because essentially the next company that we want to move to, or the next company that we do move to, may be tech savvy and up to date. And so we don't want to find ourselves in a position where we're left behind. So one could say that companies that don't keep up with trends and innovation are destined for failure. This might be a bit harsh, but at the very least they could lose some significant market share. Making the right decision at the right time can save a company, while not having the tools to provide much needed information in real time can provide the competition with easy prey. A prime example of this is Palm and BlackBerry. We all know what happened to Palm. They're well and truly gone at this stage. BlackBerry are kind of hanging on by a thread, and what comes to mind maybe is too little too late. So the question is it the new role of the CFO to make sure that companies move with the times and don't get left behind? Maybe steering them on in an innovative direction, pushing the company to take on new financial tools that may give them a competitive edge, or at the very least, not let the lack of innovation bring the company below par. Okay, so to summarize, what can cloud do for me? Well, we have less errors, help in collaboration, we can make real-time decision-making a reality, drive adoption of finance tools, take ownership of the system, get empowered to configure the system to suit what you need. The new CFO will be regarded as someone who can direct the organization. Okay, so that's the end of the presentation. I hope you found it interesting and helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to me at ask@myagent.com, and I'll be happy to come back to you. And here is a list of upcoming webinars that might be of interest to you, so feel free to register on our website. Okay, so thanks for that. Bye-bye.